Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pod Tiki. My name is Tony, and today we are traveling back down to my favorite island that I've never been to. We're going to Martinique. I've always wanted to go to Martinique, haven't been able to get there yet, things just haven't worked out, but man, I'm so intrigued and mystified by this island and all the culture and terroir, and most of all, the rum that comes out of there. So, we're going down and we're going to travel there with an eponymous cocktail named the Island of Martinique cocktail. Now, this cocktail is unique because it was one of the original cocktails by Don the Beachcomber for Don the Beachcomber's Bar circa 1948. Now, the way this drink came about, I go into all of the history and everything I found about it on the latest episode of Pod Tiki titled The Island of Martinique Cocktail, which you can find all over the place. But for this, let's go a little brief refresher. Now, what Don the Beach did was usually follow the punch recipe for creating his drinks. 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. His idea was, well, why just use lime juice for the sour? Why not break that up and put in some grapefruit and orange? Why only use simple syrup or cane sugar for the sweet? How about putting in some cinnamon syrup or some fruit juices, some sweet fruit juices, or maybe even splurging up the weak, and instead of just using 1 fruit juice or 2, how about mixing that up with soda or throwing in a little bit of sparkling water or something like that. His most famous concoctions, though, were what he called his rum rhapsodies, and that was he achieved by taking the strong part, the spirit, and he was the very first person to combine 2 or more different rums from different regions to create a new tertiary flavor. Now, if you take a Kentucky bourbon, it's going to taste relatively similar to another Kentucky bourbon, respectively. But a dark Jamaican rum with its heavy molasses funk is going to taste nothing like a grassy rum agricole from Martinique or Mauritius or something like that, which in turn is going to be very dissimilar to a bright, crisp Spanish-style rum, like from Cuba or Puerto Rico, say. What he did was put these things together, create new flavors that really can only be found in tiki drinks thanks to Don the Beachcomber. And this drink is no different. The Island of Martinique cocktail started out as pretty much a tea punch, which is rum agricole, a little bit of lime juice, and some cane sugar. If you swap out the rum agricole for a Spanish-style rum, you pretty much have a daiquiri. In fact, you do have a daiquiri. What he did was take this basic daiquiri/tea punch recipe, and he did his thing. He applied his knowledge of making punches and dividing things up and said, well, for the spirit, instead of using all rum, what if we put a little falernum in there too, at the core? We split up the honey we add in honey to split up the simple syrup and the cane sugar. You have your lime juice, which falernum also adds a lot of island spices to it. And then he distilled that down back into a strained drink that would fit into a coupe glass, much like a daiquiri again, but with the addition of bitters and a small amount of water, he actually transformed it into the definition of a cocktail. He pretty much took a punch recipe, made it into a daiquiri, and then made it into a cocktail. That is such a classy tiki drink. I just cannot understand why it's not on more menus, and it should be. When you sip this, you're going to understand why. Let's jump into the ingredients. Right, we're going to start off with a rum agricole. That's an aged rum agricole. Now, rum agricole is a rum out of Martinique under the French AOC system. I go into all that in the podcast. The French are the only ones who have a standard for producing rum the same way that Kentucky bourbon has to be something, or wine from a certain region, or cognac has to be from that region, things like that. They have a system in place to make sure that their rum has a certain standard to it. For this particular, an agricole rum is made by using the juice from fresh pressed cane sugar rather than molasses, which is used for most rum production. So you're going to get a more herbaceous, grassy notes to it. It's going to be not dissimilar to a very floral type drink, but not so much that not a liqueur floral, but it's going to have those notes in it. It's really unique and special in the way they do it. And today I'm going to use the Clement VSOP. I chose the VSOP for this because besides I was going to say it's my favorite version. The Select barrel is actually my favorite. It's got a lot more funky forward grassy, herbaceous notes. This is a little bit more refined, a little bit more toned down. Think of it more like, you know how the French like to do it. They like to make everything more refined. This is more along the lines of a brandy made from fresh pressed cane juice. It's really smooth, still aromatic, still very agricole, cane sugar notes, still got that grassiness to it, but just a little bit more refined. And for a cocktail, I find that it works good for this. We're also going to use a Velvet Falernum. Now, Falernum is either a light rum or a light-based spirit out of Barbados, mixed with island spices, whether it's lime or allspice or nutmeg, things along those natures, and made into a liqueur. Don't confuse this with the Falernum syrup, which is a simple syrup, a cocktail syrup with similar characteristics but non-alcoholic. We have enough sweet here. We don't need to add that in there, and you're not going to get the same amount of the same bite. The industry standard for Falernum is John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum. It's called Velvet Falernum because of that smooth flavor, smooth texture on the palate. Next, we're going to need some honey syrup. Now, Don Beach was famous for making his own syrups and spices and mixing things together like I spoke about earlier. Honey syrup was just his version of being able to make honey pliable enough to be used in cocktails. Otherwise, it's all sticky and syrupy. You can't really measure it outright. It gets stuck in the shaker, all that. This is a 1-to-1 mix of clover honey with water, and then you boil it like you would a simple syrup on the stove. Jeff Berry, who is the author of Potions of the Caribbean, which this recipe comes from. He's the tiki historian. He's the utmost tiki historian. He says that Don used a 2-to-1 ratio. Nary loath am I to doubt the beachcomber himself. I just don't like my drinks that sweet. And when you're using a wildflower or a clover honey, a 2-to-1 ratio, I think, throws off the balance of this cocktail. You get more honey than you do agricole, and as we will discuss later, they fit so seamlessly together that the balance is just perfect the way it is. I don't want too much honey. So 1-to-1 ratio is good. I use regular clover honey for this mix. And then, of course, we want some fresh squeezed lime juice. I got some pre-squeezed lime juice right here. And some Angostura bitters. Now, this drink is a blended drink, but it's not frozen. You're going to use like about 3 ounces, a small handful of ice, crushed ice, and what that's going to do is, not only is it that with the bitters going to make it the definition of a cocktail, because a cocktail has to have some water aspect to it, but it's also going to give the drink that bubbly head. Like tiki drinks are known for having a frothy, bubbly effervescence to them, and this is not going to froth the drink, but it's going to give it nice little small bubbles on top of the drink to give it kind of a tiki-fied head. It's really a tiki drink made into a classy cocktail. It's amazing. And it's going to also aerate and dilute the drink enough so it's not overbearing. You want to make sure you put it in there, blend it for about 5 seconds. 5 seconds is all you want to go. If you go more than 5 seconds, you're going to end up, it's going to not give you those bubbles that you want. If you go less than 5 seconds, you're going to end up with chunks of ice. And even though we're going to strain those out, they need to be diluted in the drink to make it perfect. Crushed ice, I pre-crushed that earlier in my Louis bag with a mallet. You can always, I guess, crush your ice however you usually crush your ice, but you want to make sure that it blends finely and smoothly into the drink. So let's go ahead and do it. We're going to take your vessel for mixing here. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of the Clement VSOP, or your rum agricole Vou or amber of choice. I do like this Clement because it has a very, even though this is a toned down version, it has a very grassy flavor to it, or herby. I don't want to turn anybody off when I keep on saying grassy and herbaceous. It's just the notes that your palate picks up. It's not like this is, you're not drinking a blade of grass here. You're going to do 1/2 ounce of your falernum, if I get the top off of it. 1/2 ounce of falernum. Falernum is necessary for any tiki bar. You can add some falernum into anything. If you don't know what you want to drink, but you have some rum and some juice and some falernum, you can make a tiki drink. It adds body to everything. It's amazing. We're going to do 1/2 ounce of lime juice and 1/4 ounce of honey syrup. which even though it's a syrup, still makes a mess sometimes. So get that off of there so that you don't end up with a top on your jar here that you can't get off, and then you look like a fool when you tell your wife you're going to make drinks and you can't get the top off the jar. So don't do that. And then 1 or 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. That's gonna, you can already see it's gonna give it that nice dark amber hue. And about 3 ounces of crushed ice. Again, not too much, not too little. You don't want to end up with a frozen drink. That's not what we're trying to do here. Save that for the cruise ships. In fact, I even put a little bit too much in there. All right. Now, we will start up our old blender here. Put that on there. This thing has been a lifesaver for all kinds of stuff. And again, 5 seconds on high. Sorry for the noise. Again, you don't want to go too over 5 seconds, and you don't want to go under 5 seconds. You want to attain just the right texture to make this a smooth, well, not to overuse the word velvety, but velvety on the palate. And we're going to double strain, fine strain here, into a coupe glass. And you can see, as I hold this up, that even though we didn't put any like pineapple or egg or anything in here, you can still see it's got a nice, small, bubbly, frothy head on there, like a nice white mascara line across the top of the drink. It's got a nice amber hue to it, almost a goldish amber, flaxen kind of color to it. The bubbles hit your lip as you're taking a sip. Almost acts as like just the texture you get from the little effervescence and fizz from the bubbles, and then this smooth, mellow, palate coating. I can't even tell you what the flavor it is. The flavor of rum agricole, the natural flavor of cane sugar, grassy herbaceousness, mixed with the natural flavor of raw, unfiltered honey, because you always want to make sure you use raw, unfiltered, most organic, the best ingredients you can get. When you get the right ingredients, it just creates such a unique new flavor that there's not even a way for me to put it into words. It's a new flavor that we don't have a name for yet. It's rich but also bright. It's smooth but also a little bit effervescent. This has become my go-to cocktail. It gives me a very unique kind of buzz. The after effects of this are euphoric in the sense where it makes me very happy. And not like just drinking tiki drinks don't always make me happy, but this makes me very outgoing, and like I want to. If my wife ever wants to get me on the dance floor, she can give me a Martinique cocktail. I'll be very happy to go out there and moonwalk across the floor. So good. A little hint of tart from the lime juice, perfect. There you have it, folks. Amber will always be the color of my energy as long as I'm sipping the Island of Martinique cocktail. Thanks for watching. Make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe and follow us at pod_tiki, or you can follow my personal page at rum_poet. I'm most active on Instagram, but you can find us on Facebook and all that stuff, TikTok as well. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Stitcher, all the places. And make sure that you escape responsibly. Oh, make sure you also follow our YouTube page. We just started this YouTube page for Pod Tiki. There's all kinds of stuff up there. This is going to be on there, as well as my new series, my video series, Inside the Mug, which is a behind-the-scenes look at all the episodes and things like that are going on in the Pod Tiki world. So, there you have it, folks. The Island of Martinique cocktail. And I'll see you guys at the Tiki Bar.